if you imagine a brand or your company as a person. So you have John, he aspires to be seen as a certain way because he wants to be cool. But right now his brand is not cool. So his branding, he will probably go do some research, go on YouTube, what do cool people listen to, what do they watch, what do they wear, and he's studying, he's like, okay, this is how you do it. That's his strategy, putting it in place. And then when it comes to identity, this is how he shows himself to the people. So he's now going to go and buy the clothes. So when he walks, there's a cool person over there. When he speaks the language, and people receive him as what he wants to be received as. And this is exactly like our businesses. Sometimes we have everything in place, our accounts in place, we have everything in place, we're motivated, but when people see us, they don't take us seriously. And right now, there's a lot of banners in the room, and that shows the importance of showing yourself. That banner should speak for itself. The image of the kind of people that run it. Are they professional? Are there colors all over the place? Are they modern? Are they old school? You can tell that by just an image.
Hey, old school.
And sometimes you can actually tell when someone comes and provides you the same business that I don't want to work with this person. I'll give an example. I like to give practical examples. I'm looking for a house at the moment, and I'll literally go on Zoopla or Rightmove just by what the bathroom looks like. I don't care what everything else looks like. I'm like, nope, next. Whether that house has been taken care of, but even just sometimes the image quality, I'm like, this doesn't look like it's okay, next. And sometimes that's what people do with our businesses. It's not just a matter of I'm online, I'm on Facebook, I'm on where? Your picture, your profile is pixelated on LinkedIn. So I go look for you, I'm like, who's this? Next. So image is something that we don't sometimes take seriously, but we need to invest in, especially in this generation. We make decisions by seeing. The moment I see something, I can choose that I want to go further to learn about it more, or just stop at what I've seen. And then we lose the interest of certain groups, certain markets. And I'm probably going to mix again and touch on social and digital a bit. I want to go into it a bit later on. But one thing that we need to be aware is our social environment, the news, what's going on, particularly in our industry. Because this unfortunately has gotten so many businesses in trouble. And I'll give reference to big companies, but as we all aspire to be big companies, it is something we need to be thinking about. A couple of months ago, I don't know people that know H&M, they got into trouble for an advert that was racially controversial. It wasn't really a bad thing, it was a good image. But you need to be aware that these days people almost have an expectation for you to perceive an image of equality, diversity. We can't run away from it. So you could do things in the name of ignorance, and maybe you have a picture, your advert just has black people, and people are like, why? Maybe I don't relate to it. If it's a white person, they might actually feel, I think it's not for me. I think it's not for my family. Another example that I'll give, I love makeup, and I follow makeup a lot and the makeup industry. One thing in the makeup industry, for anyone who may be interested in it, that has been a big issue, is that whenever a brand releases, say a new foundation, a new concealer, or whatever it is, people are looking, how many shades? Does it cater for the black people? Does it cater for the white people? It's not that they haven't produced a good quality, but already by seeing what it is they're saying, they already have a problem. Whether we want to run away from it or not, people have now, the consumers have now had an emotional attachment to what companies are releasing. And that could be anything. So it's easy to say, oh, this doesn't relate to me, this only relates to the young people. But we may find ourselves later on, especially as we get bigger, that people are looking at the details of who are these people? What are they saying? What's their message? And a lot of times, when I got to speak, I was speaking on the why. Why do you do what you do? And that needs to be something that's very clear. because that's something that people will question. That if you are not stable in your answer and why you do something, people will then mistake what it is your brand is about. What is your company about? And people need to be, that is something that needs to be clear. If it's on your website, what do you do? Who do you cater for? Why are you doing it? Because people now relate sometimes on the basis of, does it relate to me? Can I relate to it? Sometimes as a young person, I want things that reflect my interests. I want something that, if I'm an older person, there are things that I'm looking for that maybe a young person may not be looking for. So that needs to be clear, person. And you can say something, and because of there's a lot of racial activity, you can use that to grab opportunities that may not be available to you, to women, because of equality. I can step up and say there are not enough women, and they will allow me to do something.
That's right.
Apologies, just going into... So we spoke about the brand, branding, and brand identity. And these are the questions I would encourage you to ask about your company and your brand. What is your mission? What's your why? And I always ask this question. Then what are your values? What beliefs drive your company? Your brand personality. If your brand was a person, what kind of a personality would they have? And I'll stop right there. In as much as we are separated from our companies, when you write or when you hire someone to be your social media person, the way they speak, the tone, represents your brand.
Right, yeah.
So how you say something could easily turn away someone or allow someone to be invited to your company and be your consumer of what you're providing. How, again, I'll get into image again because that's something I particularly love, design work. Sometimes we could have the right information. So if your brand was a person, what would they be wearing? How could you, if we saw a person walking and say, that's Val EM over there, that is X company over there. We look at companies like Apple, like Google. We know when we see the red, blue, green, we know it's Google. They could have it in the form of a flag, but we can easily identify with it. But sometimes we have, next day, your logo has changed colors. Tomorrow it's a different color. Another time you have a poster where we don't know if it's the same company or something. And that makes people, that then makes people confuse who you are and what you're about. Because you need to be identifiable as a brand. And I spoke about the social presence, and one thing I wanted to touch on was when I spoke about how we need to be aware of social issues. When we have the big brands, like the ones that we may know, the Nikes, the Apples, or whichever in your field that you may identify with, they do a little bit more than just sell what they do. They make themselves present in the issues that involve their company. I'll give an example. So if you are in the food industry, I'm trying to use a diverse range of examples. If you're in the food industry, when it comes to social media, I want to get away from the fact that just have an account open. You need to interact with people. You need to create content. That content needs to be quality. So if I'm in the food industry, and this is what I do. Sometimes you need to touch on some of the things that your consumers care about with regards to food. And provide information about that industry and what people should look out for. That thing that makes people continue to come back to you. Oh, I learned this about that company. They were talking about this on their Facebook. To engage with the audience. Because that means your consumers are constantly aware of where you stand, what you represent, and what you're doing. And then the other one that I wanted to talk about was continuity. So we talk about presence of having pages and having all these things, but if you're not consistent and you're not committed to engaging with your clients, that may make you lose that confidence that people have with you, or people forget about you. So it's not just about having a page and leaving it, but content creation has now become a full-time job. Companies now employ someone just to interact with people on social media. Companies hire people just to create flyers specifically for that brand. And it may be something that's not seem worth investing in, but that's something that people need to continually see so that that image is always in their head. So whenever people see the colors, certain colors, already the first person they think is that company. And in the market, like I said again, you can have everything correct, but what you want is clients. And you want people to remember you. When you think of opening an email account, you think of Google before Yahoo. Why? They've allowed themselves to just be a step ahead, and you always know that Google is ahead. When you think about driving cars, there's certain brands that you think about because you've seen it, because they're constantly in your face. That's why we have billboards. They want that image to constantly be running in your mind. That's why we have commercials. They want that image to constantly be running in your mind. But that image has to also be quality, be something that's worth remembering. And again, I'll touch quickly on the digital space. And as highlighted before, sometimes people shy away from being in the digital presence because whether you feel like I'm not competent in it, or it's just not my thing. But as was mentioned before, unfortunately, the world now lives online. And we have to make our mark. But it's not just about making your mark, but it's about making an effective mark. But the other thing that I wanted to present is it's actually not as difficult as you think. And I say this because information is available. Now there's even free information. Google has started a program called the Digital Garage. It's free. It's a free course online. I even tried it myself. I did a diploma in social media marketing, but half of the things that were there, I paid thousands to do it, and they're there for free now. They even have a store in Birmingham now, for those who live in Birmingham, where you can walk in, ask questions, and you will get help. So it is up to you to invest in knowledge. But when you've invested in that knowledge, invest in the application of it. And you then need to choose, do I want to spend money on someone doing it for me, or invest in time in learning how to do it? That is your choice. But at the end of the day, it is important to make sure you have a presence. Another thing that I wanted to highlight, that it's not as difficult as well to have your job showing on Google. Because now they have a thing called Google My Business. All you have to do is just go on Google My Business, place your company, your address, and where you are. So when someone is standing in that area and they search hairdressers, yours will appear. And this is free. All you have to do is verify yourself, so they'll send you something in the post to verify. But all this material is available. So there's no excuse. I'm available. I usually don't mind talking to people. I don't necessarily charge to share this information. But you can ask people. Young people especially are willing to help. And that's a way you can cut down costs sometimes than getting someone to do it for you. So I encourage you all to have a mind of learning and to realize that your image is important. Your image, when you present yourself, just as when you walk, the way you're dressed, is the same as your company. Invest in your image and what it looks like, and sometimes you will reach. That's why sometimes some of our flyers don't reach beyond a certain group of people, because they don't take certain things seriously. When they see so many colors and all these things, they're like, I don't know what this is about. With my presentation, I'd actually done examples of flyers. I wanted you to guess, without even a name of who it is, where do you think this is from? Where do you think this is from? And sometimes that's what stops us from reaching or accessing certain groups of people, particularly within this generation, if that's where your trade is, or if you're an influencer or any of the kind. So I just wanted to encourage you all to think about your brand. What does it mean? When people see it, do they take it seriously? Is it just text? Is it just an image that doesn't say anything, doesn't represent who you are. So ensure that your brand is in check just as much as your accounts are in place, your motivation is in check. It's a 360 investment that you need to invest in every part of your image, that once all things are in place, now you can package it in a way that someone can take it and enjoy it. Thank you.